G'day, my name's Swan. I manage the Sustainable Integrity Scheme on behalf of the Australian Wool Exchange and on behalf of AWEX and all of its members. I'd like to thank Rita and the ASI executive for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I will be speaking about the history of the Sustainable Integrity Scheme, the scheme I manage, its current status, and a bit about where to for this integrity scheme. I hope you find it interesting. I'd like to start by talking about innovation, which comes in waves in our lives and through our industries. Those of you that are holding mobile phones or have them in your pocket will know how transformative those little devices have become for us all. Well, our industry is dealing with an innovation wave at the moment. It's washing through us. It's called specifying the product ethics for our agricultural products. It's affecting not just wool, it's affecting all of our agricultural industries and also mineral industries, for example. It's following on from a wave that lasted from the 1970s through to the 2000s, which was the wave of objective measurement of wool. My R&D career was in that space. Now the follow-on wave is all about ethics. How do we specify them? Well, Sustainable is a manifestation of that wave. Sustainable was launched in February 2015. It was established to communicate care down the pipeline. Care for the sheep, care for the environment, care for clip preparation responsibilities for this expensive fibre of ours. It was created by three real innovative companies, two Italian weavers and their wholly owned Australian subsidiary. So Vitali Barberis Canonico and Successori Reda in Biella, and New England Wool, under the leadership of Andrew Blanche, created Sustainable with the help from some growers. The key design concept, the fundamental innovation, is a combination of a wide scope, including clip preparation standards, but also a partnership with the Australian Wool Exchange to build on the National Wool Declaration and clip preparation standards, which AWEX manage. This combination means that the scheme has wide scope, but also has great efficiency because it builds on existing industry integrity programs. This leads us to a situation where, for really efficiently, we can have 100% of our growers audited each year through desktop audits. 20% of them have a physical farm inspection each year. And 100% of the sale lots they offer at auction are physically appraised by an AWEX registered appraiser for compliance with the Code of Practice for wool clip preparation in Australia, which assures their quality. So it's a robust system built on the fundamental partnership with the Australian Wool Exchange. There are three key elements in terms of documents. There's our standard, the Sustainable Standard, which lists all the practices, the requirements and the recommendations. There's a grower practice declaration which builds on our standard, and which also, like our standard, over time evolves. Both of them are version 8 on our current website. You can access it if you wish. We also have a content claim standard which exists to permit our downstream partners to certify their products, and AWEX issues certificates of authenticity for the wool that is sourced. We verify the content, we verify the point of origin, and issue certificates accordingly to our partners. Well, in July 2019, the Sustainable Integrity Scheme was gifted to the Australian wool industry. It had grown from its small foundations in 2015 to nearly 1,000 growers now. It had certainly grown beyond the needs of Reda and Barberis and their specific supply chains. And so through their generosity, they deeded it to the industry for industry good. It's now operated by the Australian Wool Exchange. AWEX is an industry-owned services company responsible for wool pack standards, wool classing standards, for the National Wool Declaration, for our market reporting standards, for our electronic class of declarations scheme, WoolClip. And it's now responsible for Sustainable. What do we offer in a competitive landscape? What's special about us? Well, we offer traceability from an individual mob of sheep on an individual farm through the yarn, fabric and top. Other schemes can do that, which is great. We also offer integrity. AWEX is independent. By that I mean AWEX doesn't own the wool. It doesn't clip the ticket or get paid a percentage of the value of the wool. So it has no interest in the value of the wool. It exists to service the industry. The scheme is certified under ISO 9001, and AWEX conducts up to 400 physical farm inspections a year across the NWD and Sustainable. So we offer integrity. We also offer scale. Roughly between 10 and 11% of Australia's merino clip volume is produced by sustainable growers. And given that we have minimum standards for clip preparation and not all wool bales are eligible, it turns out that about 16% of eligible merino wool lots are produced by our growers. Something we're pretty proud of, but it's not a laurel we're standing on. We have wide scope, as I mentioned before, 69 separate aspects, and that scope grows. The farm you can see in the background is owned by Michael and Kathy Blake. That's Ballyglunin Park, and they're one of the founding members and architects of Sustainable. Michael and Kathy are gold growers. Our gold growers, a special group of growers in our scheme, are being assessed for their regenerative farm practices. They're helping us develop our scheme and the next components to our scheme. And finally, we certainly offer quality in the sense that all sustainable bales that are offered at auction must be prepared to P certificate standard according to the Code of Practice. We also offer flexibility. Sustainable as an integrity scheme has two tiers, or two separate levels. You have the sustainable level, which is our non-mules and no breech modification level. About 400 of our members participate at that level. We also have Sustainable, which is our tier for growers that still are on the journey to phase out their mulesing. Many growers can be wonderfully sustainable, do the right thing. However, it's taking time for them to overcome the reliance on mulesing whilst they're maintaining and growing other parts of their business. We offer them support along that journey. Sustainability is a journey, it's not a destination, it's not necessarily an end. And so our scheme prides ourselves on our support for growers who are on this journey. And each year between 5 and 10% of our blue growers transition to green because they cease to mules. And we've supported them through that transition. In terms of benefits to growers, there are a number of these. Firstly, practice improvement. Our grower declaration, with its required but also recommended practices, becomes like a ready reckoner for their business, and they identify practices that they can improve. We've also gone to great trouble to ensure that all of our farm inspectors are highly trained, very proficient and very familiar with the farm environments. So they speak the language, they understand the context. They have an educational role as well as an auditor's role. And what this combination leads to is skill and comfort with integrity schemes, a partnership or a relationship with them. And so growers see them as not something to be feared or something that's a threat per se. This is something that can add value to their business, and many of our growers end up participating in a number of schemes because they add value to their business. But there's also the financial benefit. Typically, our growers receive between 2 and 4% more for their fleece wool lines, whether they're a sustainable green member or sustainable member, which you can see in the green bars, or a sustainable blue member, which you can see in the blue bars, compared to non-members' wool, matched for all other attributes. You can see that 2020 was a quiet year because of COVID, but you can also see that the premiums have recovered. This is critical to us because it's incredibly important that with any of these integrity schemes, the benefits for the growers need to outweigh the costs. And it's to costs that I'd like to turn. All of us need to recognise that operation of schemes like Sustainable and others comes at cost. It's not free. The cost of inspecting farms is substantial, particularly in countries like Australia or the States with our great distances, our huge land areas, our extensive farms. And it's expensive for growers as well in terms of their time. It's also expensive for the inspectors. We need to recognise these costs are real and can be a barrier, especially for small growers. There's also major duplication of inspections across schemes within the wool industry and between the meat sector and the wool sector. In Australia, our farms are inspected under what we call LPA audits for their livestock production assurance. So they are inspected for their sheep meat, for their farm health and their biosecurity. And there's a fair overlap between those inspections and our sustainable inspections and other wool sustainability inspections. So growers can be inspected 2 times, 3 times a year independently with overlapping inspections. This leads to a risk of audit fatigue by the growers, but also it's expense. It's unnecessary expense. It's also a risk because it just annoys people. It's one area where intelligent cooperation is required. So it's something that we're really keen to see, and this is something that I think we will see a lot more of in the future. What I call harmonisation and recognition. We need to accept at the outset that free markets love diversity. Consumers love choice. Brands and retailers compete against each other, so they like to differentiate each other. So there's a diversity of products and services required, a diversity of brands, a diversity of meanings, a diversity of schemes required. But also to ensure sustainability of an industry and the sustainability of production, we need to make sure efficiency is part of this equation. It's not just all cost. And IWTO, the International Wool Textile Organisation, which the ASI is a strong supporter of on your behalf, is driving a harmonisation and recognition process. I've had the privilege of chairing for the first 15 months of its life the Sustainability Standards Task Team, which looks to work out the equivalence of different schemes and to lead to an international framework for recognition of the schemes, recognition that they comply with IWTO regulations, but also a framework to allow the schemes to better cooperate and find efficiencies and opportunities while preserving diversity. The other thing for this is there's a major gap that we've identified in our stakeholder analysis in terms of awareness and education about the diversity of schemes and their value, their overlaps. And this process will help in that area. To conclude, I'd like to pass on that key message that care and connection, when it's communicated to growers or by growers to consumers, it has value. This is an opportunity. Communicating the care that we exhibit is our natural space as an industry. It can underpin our demand and value growth as fibres. Remembering we are a small industry, we're a rare, expensive natural fibre. We're biodegradable, renewable, fire resistant, odour resistant. We're 50% carbon by weight. We've got a wonderful story to tell, and connecting our growers to our consumers is part of that. But we need to recognise that there are key challenges. Benefit from all of this is not just going to drop in our lap for free. To ensure that we have maximum benefit from all of this, we need to make sure we address the key challenges, and they are to support participation by growers, wherever they are, by recognising that there are costs and difficulties, but they also may need someone to hold their hand. To see integrity as a co-investment along the pipeline, not just a cost for growers, but also to reduce duplication and inefficiencies where they can be reduced. And a big part of this is the growing recognition of equivalence between schemes and partnerships between them without lessening the diversity of product offer in the marketplace. I see great things happening in that area. So from down here on the front line in Australia, I'd like to say good night. Thank you for the opportunity. I've Really appreciated it. I wish I was there with you. I would have enjoyed that. And I hope our paths cross soon. Keep well. God bless.